Hey guys, welcome. All right, so in this video, we're gonna do the basic Android Studio. So as you see here, you have these red things here. If you see red on here, it just means that I archive these files off and put them somewhere else on a backup drive. So with that in mind, they just look like they can't be found. So what we're gonna do is start up your Android Studio. Whether you're using a Mac or PC, just go up and search for it, pull up the app. And whether you have a Mac or PC, it'll look exactly the same. So what we're going to do here, nothing super crazy. We're just going to create a new project, walk through it, start a screen, set up our emulator. I'll show you guys the SDKs. I talked in a lecture about the different things that are available, the wacky names that are out there. So first and foremost, there's a lot of stuff to look at here. You can import projects if you're using Eclipse. Like I mentioned, Eclipse is an old thing. We're not going to use that in the class. You can import an Android's code sample if you want to start with. You can also you can configure information down here as well. You could do your AVD Manager, you could do your SDK, you could do all that stuff here. But we'll start off and just kind of create a project and then go from there. And then I'll show you guys how to set up the AVD and the SDK and so forth. So make sure this is recording. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is start a new Android project. You have all these different options here. So you have the operating system if you want to wear a watch, if it's a TV app, Android Auto. Some vehicles have the Android Auto and things. I'm not really quite sure what the things are. But for this, we're just gonna choose the phone and tablet. And there's all these options here. These are just templates. For this start, I'm just going to start with an empty activity. That allows us to do what we want to do at this point. Hit next. Come up with an application name here. We'll call this, we'll call it CMPS 460 mod 1. Maybe that's a silly name. We'll come up with something better. We will call it Superfly, whatever that is. Package name is important. Come up with usually COM dot maybe the name of your organization and then dot whatever your application name is. So in this case, I'll call PPU. Users, J. Siemens, Superfly. Here's the thing about the language. It's just like iOS. You have to choose Kotlin or Java. In this case, we're going to choose Java. The API level, this talks about the SDKs that you could use. So these are software development kits. What this primarily means is if it's an older version, like for example, if we go down to Android 10, which is a newer one, it'll tell you an idea, a rough estimate of what percentage of individuals will be running the application. So that right there just says that less than 1% of people will actually use this. So if you push this app out to the Play Store, less than 1% of people actually will be utilizing it. But if you go for an older version, such as say Oreo, you get 6%. But if you start with Lollipop, you have a chance of reaching your app with about 80% of the people. So I'm going to choose 5.1 Lollipop. I'm not going to do instant apps. I'm just going to leave it as is and hit finish. And now it's going to build some stuff up here. All right, so what it's doing here, it's it uses something called Gradle, and Gradle is a way to build your program. Your application compiles it, so it builds it up. As you can see down here, it's doing build, load. It has some information down here. It has a terminal, so you could do terminal stuff here. So it's just like Git, Bash, or terminal. So you could do ls. So if I want to do a PWD, I can clear my screen right here, so I can see where I'm at. See, I'm in Superfly. If I do an ls, it lists my files and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Shows your build that we talked about. Logcat is Logcat is just a way to look at your logs. So if something does blow up, your to-do, your current file, scope base, and so forth. So pretty straightforward stuff. It'll look different on the PC because all your options will be here, where the Mac is all here. But for the most part, there's so many different things that you can and can't do. So this right here is, you see where it says Jeff's phone. So when I have my Android device hooked up to my phone, I could hook my phone up through the USB computer, and then when I run it, so if you're using an Android app, you go hook your Android phone up to your USB-C or USB whatever port, and you can go in your available devices. When we go to AVD, I'll show you how you could actually build it off your phone. So what that means is when you run it, it builds to your phone. The difference between that and React Native, yes, it builds to your phone, but unfortunately, it will not remain on your phone. Where if you're going into work and you want to mess with your app, it won't work that way unless it's synced to your computer. Whereas Android, and if you build the application to Android through the native, it will remain on there, and you can do updates when you make a change. So that to me is more of a benefit when you do it that way versus having to be next to your computer. So we'll talk about that. I'll close this out in a second here. This is kind of your files, your manifest. Automatically, as you see, everything's in Android. I'm sorry, everything's in XML, as I mentioned. These are configuration files. Can you change this? Absolutely. Do we want to change them right now? Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is these are configuration files written in XML. XML, as you can see, is just a tag-based language. Will this change? Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Java, that's the programming language. And then they have a test environment. So we're not going to be dealing with the tests at this time. Maybe later on in the program, we'll talk about how the test works and how you can run tests and so forth. But for now, I'm not going to play with that. Okay. If we click on the Java right here, we do have the test, but the one that we're going to worry about is the main area right here where it says Superfly MainActivity. So MainActivity is a class. And in Java, a class is everything's a class. So for example, let's take JavaScript. And I'm using stuff that you guys are really familiar with. So if you do JavaScript and you create a new class, it might be app.js or it might be screen.js. Well, in Java, any new file, a .java file is a new class. And I will get into a greater detail in the next lecture, and talking about next week or the following week, we'll get into more in depth about what Java is, how you write it. But we're not going to learn everything. We're just going to learn what we need to know. Okay. In Java, you have a package, and your package is just like what we did when we started the application first. We had a package. We did our com dot whatever your organization is dot whatever your application name is. Your import is just like if you remember in JavaScript, you import libraries, and in this case right here, this is a default library that we import, and this works kind of like React Native. If you remember in the React Native app, we added a button, and when we added the button, it didn't work, and we had to import it. Well, that's kind of how Java works as well. We have to import stuff in order for it to work, or the object won't know what to do. And these two are just automatic defaults. This right here is our main class, and then within our main class, it allows us to. My nose is itching. I apologize. All right. In our main class is MainActivity. You could call this anything at this state. And it's extending that class and using another subclass, which happens to be this guy right here. So we're importing something, and then we're extending that class so that we could use that class within that module. Okay. 1 second. Sorry about that. All right, so we have this class. And then down here we have something called an override. And we'll talk about later on what that exactly is. But right now, this is all by default. We have a void. So void is your main part of your program within Java. So you have a protected void. On create, it just means something's going to happen. This is going to be here by default, and then we'll add to it moving forward. This right here is setting the content, and then we're using R stands for resource, and we're using a layout. So if we come over here under res, there's an option down here called layout. And it uses this guy right here, the activity main. So anything that's down here, we can add in here. So all it's doing is if I type in here, I could do content, view, then R stands for resource, dot, then anything that we build down here. So I could come down here and call it, I could do a new file, and I could create that file and call it styles. So in this case right here, it would be r.style dot whatever you have as your file. But in this case right here, we have a layout, and then whatever we have underneath it. And activity main, we go in here, which is our main screen. So let's say that for hypothetically, we wanted to create another screen. Let's say we create a backup screen, and that screen is going to be, I don't know, a different page. We could just come in here and create a new file. That new file could be second page.xml, and we could create an activity off of that, and that could be our second activity, and so forth. And as we build other pages, we just build new activities. But for now, we're not going to do that. You'll see that it's different here. So in Android, you just do that. When we get into iOS, we'll just type something in and drag it in, and it brings the activity. So I would think that iOS to me is easier. It's more intuitive, but this is different. So, and this works, don't get me wrong. All right, so this right here is just our area. So I'm gonna go into activity main. And this is what I like about Android development. Because you have a visual of your screen, you can see how everything is layered up. You can move in and out of your screen here. So if you like something big, you could change your theme. You could change the different versions that you want to run on. You could come down here and choose what phone you want to test it on, which is really awesome. And this is based off of the environment that you have in place. These down here are controls, and we'll go through some of the different controls. You have buttons, you got different text like password protection information. You got widgets, so a calendar view if you want to do a video, if you want to create something for a website. Layouts, containers, Google, the map. So these are like SDKs with the map view. Legacy stuff that you could add like tabs. So you can see that you can have a ton of stuff. So in here, you're just doing drag and drop, and then you're writing some code behind it. So what's really nice about using this interface, it's really good for somebody who has an eye and knows what they want to create. Drag and drop, and you can mock something up and then figure out how to code it, which is cool. I like this. To me, I like to visually see what I'm creating, and then I can code on the back end. This is kind of like a mirror of when ASP.NET became available. ASP.NET, used Visual Studios, and they would allow you to do just like this. And it made it easier to code, personally, from my experience. So this is good to have. But before we get into setting up an app and stuff like that, we need to go through some other things. There's a lot of stuff that we can go through. I could spend a month on this stuff. But for the time being, just to get us started, because we have a lot to do, I'm going to go into the AVD Manager, and then there's another one next to it called the SDK Manager. Let's do SDK first, which is Software Development Kit. Click on this. See, this right here lists all the different versions. So SDK is just a different version of each API level. API, Application Programming Interface, is just a different level. Anything that I have checked that says installed, that means that, remember at the beginning when we created the app, it showed what version that we were creating it on. Like if we wanted to do on this version or that version, it told us what was available. Well, that's all that it really is. And so if you want to download the newest one, if there's an update, you can just click here and do an install on it. So make sure that you have at least an older one like the Jelly Bean available, or I had Lollipop, even though it said it wasn't installed. Let's see something here. So what you want to do is, if you click on a check right here, I'm not going to install it because then I'll go and install it. You just click apply and OK, and it'll go and install. So we'll try it after we created something. So this will be something that you want to set up here. The other thing is you want to go over to AVD Manager. And AVD Manager allows you to set up a virtual device. Now you see I have my phone set up on here because if you plug your phone in, if you have an Android device, it'll allow you to create it. If it doesn't, it won't really let you do that. So if I want to do, this is something that you'll want to do, is do a phone. Choose what type of phone that you want to do it on. So there's all these different options. Nexus is an older one, but don't know if they have Samsung out here. I thought they did. Nonetheless, I'm familiar with the Pixel, so I'm going to go with I don't know what the A is. I guess I'm not too familiar. I think the A was like something weird. So I'm going to go with the 3XL. I'm going to do next. And I'm going to go back for a second. It tells you what resolution and so forth automatically in the size. So I'm going to hit next. And then you tell it what version, what OS do you want on it. Okay, so I want to put Lollipop. I could put Lollipop on it, or I could put Pi. I'll just keep Pi on it because it's already there. If not, you have to download it. And then I'll hit next. And then you choose if you want it to be landscape or portrait. I'm going to choose portrait. The graphics, just choose automatic. And in enable frame, you can just choose that and hit finish. And what it's going to do is it's going to create that environment. What that means is when I go to run it, I could run it in 3. On it, it should pop up for me. It'll just pop up the default stuff. I don't know if 3's any better than 2. Hopefully, because 2 was awful. Not at first, it was great, and then it got bad. Oh. That's the first time I've seen 3. Yeah, 3 looks just like 2. But I'm sure there's some options that you can't do. Huh. All right. Nonetheless, that's what we got. Cool. So let's write an app. Let's go through and actually do something that we could play around with a little bit. So probably let's start off with stuff. Let's just drag some stuff on the screen. I'm going to minimize this guy here. Now, things always change on here. So when I start playing around with stuff, I always get a little confused because I'm trying to create more real estate here because I have no real estate. There we go. Perfect. Hopefully you guys can see. All right. So this screen over here is something new. It's a constraint layout. And you want a constraint layout because if you don't constraint your objects, what happens is we could create a button, and when we run it, it could be way up here. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let's actually start with a button. Let's grab a button. So you could come in here and look for a button, but it says buttons right here. You have all these different options. So I'm just going to choose a typical button. I'm left clicked on it with my keyboard, and I'm just dragging it down somewhere. Okay, just like that. And I'm not going to build a constraint. I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm not going to do anything with it right now. I'm just going to leave it say button. And then in order to run it, you hit I call it the play button. It's the green button up here. Just hit the run, or you can even come up here and do run and run app. So let's do that. And it should pull up my emulator, which is what I have down here. Yep. So it finished. All right, perfect. So you see how I ran it and the button came up here to the left? That's because we didn't build a constraint. A constraint it's a wall. It's a way to position where you're going to put your object at. It has to have that. Now, Apple, when we get into Apple, it's the same way. It has some type of constraint builder that you do. Each one's a little bit different. I don't know which one I like better. I might say I like this one better than the way it is done in iOS. So each one that you work with, you find out things that you like better. I think I like it better here than I like it there, but whatever. So I'm gonna stop it. And when you build your constraint, you want to build it over here. That doesn't mean that you can't build it here. So first of all, let's build our constraint. I'm just gonna click on each of these little guys right here. So I'm gonna move this around a little bit. Oops. So I'm gonna click on the left here and just drag it over this arrow right here. So you click on it and just drag your arrow over. So I'm putting it in between the walls here. I'm also going to drag it to the bottom. It'll take this all the way to the bottom as well, if I could do it. All right, there we go, perfect. And then I'm gonna take this all the way to the top. But I'm gonna move this button down. So I'm just left clicking and moving it down. That's it. So let's run this and see if it fixed our problem. Because we don't want that to appear up here, it won't be correct. All right, where are we at? There we go, look at that, perfect. It doesn't do anything, but for now, the button works. We have it in a position where we want it to. So that constraint allows us to put it where we want to put it at. So if we wanted to have multiple buttons, perfect, we can do it, not a problem, okay? So let me stop it. Excellent. All right, so what we're gonna do is try to create a small little app. We're gonna have a button. Let me look at your homework assignment, what I told you to do in the homework assignment. I tend to forget. Let's try to accomplish that first and foremost, which is important. I don't want to throw too much at you. I want it to be simple, guys. All right, so I'm looking at it. iPhone, Android, change the background color. Okay. Now, when you look at the background color, it looks like this, but we'll have to change it from here. Create a button, no action event. Okay. And that's it. So let's do that, and then I'll give you guys a little extra taste of it and create some other stuff with it. So let's do the simple stuff. So let's click on a button, and I'm gonna click over here on attributes. See how nice it is? You have this nice thing right here. So you have your button ID. You have to give it some type of ID. I usually do a BTN, and then I give it whatever the button's called. So I'm gonna call it submit. Okay, so I'm gonna call it button submit. Then the other thing is I want to change the name of the button. So let's go down. If you scroll down here, you'll find the one that says button. All right, there it is. And I'm just going to click on it and do submit. See how easy that is? Now, I'm going to show you something else you could do. You could come over in values here, strings, double click on it. Oh, actually, okay, well, we could come back to this and we could program it, but that's when we get to the other part. I thought we could do it right now. We can't yet, but we will. 1 second. Alexa, play music by the Clarks. 1 second.
This is the Cars from Braden's Spotify.
No, not the Cars. Alexa, play music by the Clarks.
This is the Clarks from Braden's Spotify.
Alexa, decrease the volume by 3. All right, so we need some music going. All right, so now we have this submit button here. Now we can do a lot of different things with the submit button since we did it. Once you click on this, you can, as you see all these different options, you can change the shadow color if you want to shadow color it somewhere. If you want scroll bars, you could do that, but I'm not doing that. See what else can we do here. There's other ways that you can change the font as well up there. The foreground tint, you could change this. You could choose one of these guys here. You could choose the color accent. You could come in here and choose something that you want to choose. Let's say I want to do something like this. I don't know. Hit OK. Boom. I don't like that. It looks terrible. So I'm going to change that. Let's do this right here. Looks better. But now I can't see my submit button. So now we need to find, that's our foreground. I don't like that. So at all, that's terrible. Let's see here. Time leaving this time. Let's see here. Where is that? So all right, let me see something here real quick. All right, oops. Control R. No, I went back too far. want to change the background. Alright, let's, don't want to change it. I wanted to find, there's a background on here somewhere. There's on my mind. Background, and that's what we just did. So let's go with something lighter. I like orange. It could be like that. I like that better. That looks good. Now you could change the, if you know the font color. So for example, if I went out to, oops, come on here. Let's say I went out to, what's the name of the website? I have it over here. Oh, that's the wrong stuff. Color or something. I thought I had it. Oh, okay. It's colorhunt.co. You could come out here and choose something custom. I mean, something that's out here. If you're looking for something specific, and you want it to be something different than what we came up with there. Like, let's say I want this background right here. You could just do that and it copies it. Like, you could click on that and it copies it. I could come back out here. I could paste it in here. See? And then that's it. Now it has that color. So you could do something like that as well. I can't sing. All right, let's see here. They change these layouts around a lot. I always forget. Let me find it here. So, actually, the lead guitar player of this band teaches here at the college. And he teaches music. Oh my gosh, where is the font at? All right, so here's the text size. If you want to increase the size, so let's say I want to go at 18, that looks good. And here it is, text style. I want to go with bold, so I can just type true. That's what I was looking for. Perfect. So now you can also make your buttons bigger by clicking on here. You can move it up. So I'm going to move it like that. Make it kind of giant. Now I almost have to change my font to make it bigger as well. You see what I'm saying? Free my soul, gonna walk on water. No, I lost the font size. I just had it right here. Sheesh. If it was a snake, it would have bit me by now. Alright, Jesus. It's right there. Alright. Cool. That took forever. Alright. We could also... I'm going to take this out for now, but we could change this where it says hello world. We could just say... Point Park University. And we could change the font size maybe, if I remember where that's at. And what we want to do is click on these arrows right here, like that. We also don't like that being like that. There's a way you can center it. Text alignment, center. Let's see what else we want here. Text, we could change a different text color. That's a green, so that looks almost the same. We could, I'll show you a different way that we could change it later, I think. That's our style. So you see all these different options that you can play around with, and that's what I want you guys to do is play around with it. Let's just run this right now and see what happens. All right, where's my thing at? There it is. Look at that, Point Park University, submit button. Well, your app, that's all you have to do. But if you're curious and you want to learn a little bit more, I will show you a little bit more. And that's what I want to do, is show you a little bit more, do a little bit of coding. So let's do that. All right, so this is what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this guy up to the top of the page. Okay. And let's find a text, go to text, and we're going to do plain text, maybe, or text view. So click on text view and just drag it down here like this. Let's change the size of that. So let's scroll down here, and we know that we have a text size down here at the bottom because I've seen it. And let's make that bigger, something that we can see. And then now we'll change it out like this a little bit, maybe not so big. We will make it, oops, cancel. We will text style, I'm gonna make it true. For bold, I want it to be bold. What else do we want? We want it to be moving out. What's AVD? All right, where's this at? Text alignment, we want center. All right. There's also visibility down here. So right now we're just gonna make it, we'll make it invisible. What that means is we can't see it. Yeah, we don't want to see it right now. We will, let's keep it visible for a moment, and then when we run the app, we'll keep it on, we'll make it invisible, because I want to be able to see it while I'm playing around with it. We also want to give it a value. So I don't want to call it, I want to call it TXT view 1. And that's what you want to do, is you want to give it view 1, 2, 3, and 4, something that makes sense. Something that you could kind of follow. I don't know why it's giving me that crazy thing there. All right, so we have that. And now I'm going to come down here. I don't know why it's giving me this error message for. Missing constraints. Oh, see that? That's actually beautiful. We didn't put a constraint on it. So let's constraint this guy. So, but here. It's nice. I never told you that before. I'm going to build off this button and tag it to this button here. And I'm going to tag it up here to this guy right here. And then I'm going to move him all the way up here a little bit. Perfect. All right, perfect. That's awesome. All right, so now I'm going to click on it. I'm going to make it invisible for now. I'm going to save this so I don't forget about it. Save all, perfect. All right, so now I'm going to go into the main activity, and we're going to do some little coding here, a little fun stuff. Try to make this a little bit bigger. All right, remember how to do that. All right, screw it. 1 second here. I'm going to find out where it's at. All right, so I was able to increase the font size. So in case you wonder what I did, I had to remember you had to go to preferences, go to font, and just increase the size. Maybe let's do 14, see what 14 looks like. See if it's just good enough. Hopefully you can see this. 14 is pretty big. All right, so now that I have this size created, we know that a couple things that we want to do. We have a button, we have a text pad. So we need to show that we have that. So we have to kind of declare it. So in this case right here, since I have a public class, what I want to do is there's two things. There's public and private. So the thing about public is it's like having a yard and, well, let's think about a sidewalk at Point Park. It's public. Anybody can walk on it, right? But in the building, only students could go to the building, or faculty or staff, because they have access to it. It's private. Whereas Joe Schmo off the street can't just walk into Point Park without, without a badge. So in programming, we want to make this private because we don't want this button to be inherited from another object on another page. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to type in private, and I want to declare my button. So I'm going to call it button. So as soon as I start typing the button in, it automatically pulls up the widget, which is android.widget.button. Okay. So I'm going to click on button, and look at that. Guess what? It does it for us. So we don't even have to go up here and type it. It just saved us, what, 25 keywords there? So I did button, and then I give it the name of the button that I created. So if you remember, if I click on button and scroll up to the top here, nope, that's not it. I called it button submit. So we need to put that here. So we referenced what it was called, button submit. Just like that, and we got to put a semicolon after that. So we're going to do the same thing with the text one. It's private, it's text view. Well, it has to be uppercase, so it's you'll find out Java is typical. They're pretty picky about what you call stuff. Text view, look at that, and we called it text view. Oops, if I can type. Text view 1, and to double check if you're insane and you don't remember, click on it, text view 1, perfect. That's excellent. So that is declaring, we'll put declaring our objects on the screen. And then it put them up here as well. So I'll put that here. Great. So we get that out of the way. All right. So now, a couple things that we have to do is we have to link the screen and the code up. So we have to tell it where it's at. So what we're going to do here, where it has the content view, we know that we're going to use that main page. I'm going to come down here and I'll put sync the screen and code up. Think of it that way. So we'll put the name of our object that we created, button submit, right? And it's up there. And we're going to say equals. And we're going to put what it equals. What class are we using? We're using the button class, all right? Now I think it'll even give you a little idea here. What it'll say, move the signs or remove it. But we're not done yet. We didn't finish it. If we did that, then yeah, I wouldn't know what to do with it. So now we're going to do something called find view by ID. So if you see here, find view by, I can't even talk. Find view by ID is looking for that class activity, which is our main class, which is this guy right here. We're going to call that activity. And so let me just do this. Find view by ID. And then what we want to do is we want to find the resource. So R stands for resource, dot, and you see all these different options down here. We could do class, we could do animation, but in this case, we're going to do ID, dot, and then the name of the ID that we created. In this case, we called it button submit, right? Like that. That's simple. So all we're doing here is taking the name of the object, equals, we're saying, what type of object is it? Oh, it's what type of object, what type of class is? Oh, it's a button. And then we're like, hey, we need to find that ID. So we're finding that object, which is that resource, which is the button submit. So we have to say, find the object and point it to the code. Hopefully that makes sense. And if it doesn't, let me know. All right, so we're going to do the text view one as well. Text view 1 equals text view, C. Find view, it auto sounds. You gotta love this stuff. That's great. And then text view, perfect. Done. So now our code and our page is linked up, which is awesome. All right. Now we could even be crazy here. We could modify text object. Okay, so what I'm saying here is we could change this submit button if we want to. So we could do button submit if we wanted to. We could do dot set all these different things you could do on it. So I could do set the color, the text color. Let's say that we want to do, I'm trying to look at one over here. Color dot, you could do red, you could do blue, black, anything you want to do. And then you could also add, as you see here, equals 65536. You could put hex numbers in there. You could do anything you want to do. So what would happen is if I ran that, it would change this to red instead of black. So think what I'm saying there. You could change it on the fly if you want to. We'll do it for the heck of it. Matter of fact, let's just do it now. So let's run this and see what happens. Look at that, Point Park University. It's red now. And if we didn't have this here, it would stop it, rebuild it. It would just stay black then. See how that works? Pretty awesome. All right. So now we want to actually do something here. We want to create an action event. So what we want to do is click on the submit button. When the submit button happens, we want the area that, let me go to here. We want to have this become visible. So we want to set this to true, and we will do that. And then we'll tell it what we want it to say. Okay. So let's try that and see how it works. This part right here is not part of the assignment. The assignment was just doing the first part of it, but I felt so bad about the class stuff not working, so I wanted to show you guys something. And plus, I want to get your opinion on what you think that you like. And understand this is Java, and we're learning it. Just don't feel stressed out or anything like that. I'm here to help. I'm here to help you guys learn it. I want to make it as simple as possible. And it's a something good to cool to pick up. Sorry. A skill set. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is when I click on a button, so I'm gonna do a button submit again. I'm gonna say dot, just like we set the text color. I'm gonna do set on click listener. So what that basically means is it's an on click and it's a listener and it's listening to anything that happens. In this case, we're gonna say, hey, we need a new view, and within the new view, oops, not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be new. Let me think about this. New view, and then it's dot on click listener. So it's an action event on something. We don't have to, we'll put a shift and the guy next to the P button. It's like a little squiggy thing here. And so what we're doing here is we're saying a new object that we're setting on here, set on click listener. We're saying that new view on click listener, and something has to happen. Okay. So we're going to need to put an override in here because we want to be able to have the option. So let me pull override again so you see what it is. So override indicates a method declaration intended to override a method. So basically what that means is we have the option to override what they have in place if we want to modify it for whatever case. We have that ability to do that. So we'll do an override. And what we're going to do here is we're going to put a method down here. It's going to be called public void. Like I said, I can't talk. On click. And then I'll do view. And then why we're doing view is because we want to view something. So it's just it's a method, and within the method is a parameter that we're passing. So we're going to do view v, and then this guy right here. Okay. So on click, somebody press something, says, hey, do we have anything down here? And we'll use this on click. This is our little public method that we have. So I'll put that here. Method. Method, what's a method? It's an action. You tell somebody to do something that does it. So for example, you tell somebody in the class, can you please shut the door? That's a method. Method is you're requesting something to happen. You're executing an action, and an event is happening afterwards. And that's what's happening here. Okay. So what do we want to happen? So let's think about it. So when the person hits the submit button, they're not going to be able to see anything. So we want to make sure that text view is visible. So how can we do that? We do text view 1 dot set visibility. See how that pops up? Makes it easy. And what do you think we want to put in here? It's view dot visible. It's nice. That's simple. The other thing is, so now we know that it's visible, but now we want to give it some text. So what can we do here? So we could do text view 1. We could do dot set text, right? And we could come in here and say blah, 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 like that. And that works, but let's do it the right way. So let's go over to styles real quick, or I'm sorry, strings. And we're gonna add a string here. So we're gonna do string name equals, and I'll call it show text. Oops, see daisy. And we'll call it show text, and then we'll give it a value right here. So I'll say, what can we say? The Clarks, since I'm listening to them. All right, so I'll say the Clarks. I'll save that. There we go. All right, so now what I'm gonna do here where it says set text, I'm gonna do an R, like we did up there for resource. Well, what type of resource is it? It's a string, okay, because we use strings. If we're using colors, it'd be color. If we're using styles, it would be styles, but we're not. So it's gonna be, geez, I already forgot what was string. So string and dot, and the only thing we have is show text is what we created. So it's going to take that value that we put in there, and it's going to display it, and it's going to be visible because we set it to be visible. So let's run this guy right here. Penny on the floor. That's what I should say. There you go, Clarks. So I'm actually going to change that. Alexa, increase volume by 2. This is like one of the best songs for me. There's a beer named after them at the Washington Brewery in Washington called Penny on the Floor. All right. Penny on the floor. Perfect. Now let's run it again. See? All right. And submit. Penny on the floor. That was pretty simple. In other videos, I will show you how to change this text up here. See how simple this personally can be. So when we start looking at the requirements for the application, some things will be pretty simple, I think, moving forward. And it didn't take long to create this. So this is our lesson plan on Android for the first week. Now, I don't expect you guys to do all this stuff, but I wanted to show you guys how to do it and get your opinion and see what is easy and what isn't easy. So we've learned about React Native, and we learned how to create a small little app in Android Studio. So great job, guys. You guys did good. You passed. And so now, the next video, I'm going to teach you guys how to do the same thing in iOS. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. And that's it for now. Goodbye.